Hello and welcome to 5-Year Club video number 257. Pretty typical video here, or I guess typical in the sense that I've done these before. It's a good time to check out what your October 2018 is going to look like. Why? Because many people receive a paycheck around the end of the month, beginning of the month, and we don't have any pressure a week ahead of time to spend that paycheck because it's not in our hands yet, and so we can make a more sober, more rational decision about where it needs to go. All right, so my process for this is I review my list of expenses to make sure that it's up to date, to make sure that my cell phone bill is still the same, that kind of thing. Then what I do is I go to my bank account and I look up the previous month, I look up the same month in the previous year. So in this case, I looked at October 2017 and I discovered that I would very likely be paying a property tax bill, which I had forgotten about. So yay, I get to pay property tax. And finally, after you know what your regular expenses are, what your unusual expenses are, then you have two things to think about. You have to think about how much do you want to save from this month and what priority do you want to save towards. So if you don't have an emergency fund, you need to get one. So we got emergency fund there, at least $500 or $1,000. That's the baby emergency fund. If you have consumer debt or student loan debt or anything that's not mortgage debt, that's your next priority after that $500 to $1,000 baby emergency fund. And of course, if you're on Dave Ramsey's program and what I recommend, you're not going to be purchasing anything beyond what you need to continue living and working until that consumer debt is paid off. After the consumer debt is paid off, you can beef up this emergency fund to 3 to 6 months of expenses. Once you have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund, now you have some choices in terms of where you want to put additional money. It could be a retirement account. It could be a 401k contribution. It could be a IRA, individual retirement arrangement contribution. Also, if you have an HSA plan, a health savings account, that's a good place to save money on taxes because we will all have health expenses sooner or later. And finally, if you have a kid and you are saving for their college, a 529 plan will help you do that. So you just have to decide where you're at in that process. And frankly, if you don't want to decide where you're at in that process, just chuck that money into a savings account because any savings is better than no savings. And impulsively later, you can take money from that savings account and put it into retirement or put it into some other vehicle, some other investment vehicle that you think is more productive. And finally, we think about what we want a lot, but we don't often think about, intentionally, what are we not going to buy? We think about, I really want to buy that. But we don't really think, I like video games a lot, so I found this old Game Boy Advance. What? Oh, let's see if I can turn this thing on. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. Yeah, Game Boy Advance. And I've got a Zelda game. What you could see there, though, is that this light is not very good. This is definitely 2001 technology. The form factor is pretty good. It's easy to play, but the light's not very good. And I can now buy the screen. I can now buy a lighted screen, so I know what I want to buy. But that is just an impulsive of-the-moment thing. It takes more time and more analysis to list that out and then to list out all the other priorities that I have in the coming month. So I need to, pay my property tax, and that's an unusual expense. So do I really want to spend money on a screen for a Game Boy when I've got plenty of other video game devices when I'm going to be hit by that huge property tax bill? I probably should get a new mattress. I probably should get new tires for my car. What else? Yeah, like maybe get a food processor, because I've been using like a normal blender to cut things up and it doesn't work that well. Lots of things that you could buy, but you can't buy everything, otherwise you won't save enough. So you want to intentionally decide, what are you going to purchase this month, and then what are you not going to purchase this month. Like deliberately list out the things like, I know I want these, I know they seem really cool and they're a high priority. They will not happen in October 2018, maybe later. And you can reevaluate that later. But when you think about planning for October 2018, you want to plan, what are you going to pay? I'm going to pay my property tax bill. I'm going to pay for food at Trader Joe's that I like. I'm going to pay for gas to get to work. I'm going to pay for Netflix. I know what I'm going to pay for, but I also know what I'm not going to pay for this month. I'm not going to pay for a mattress. I'm not going to pay for a different light-up screen for this Game Boy thing. And I'm not going to pay for a pony. That's right. No pony for you, Lewis. Okay, well, that is it for 5 Year Club video number 257, and it's time for bed for me. Have a fabulous evening.